Welcome.
Hello.
Because we have a couple new members, we're going to ask our city attorney to give us a short briefing on conflicts and what needs to be declared.
Hey, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes,
Do we have a quorum?
we do.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, we have 2 online and 2.
okay. All right, so I'm Ashley Driscoll. I'm with the city attorney's office. Just a quick primer on conflicts of interest. I didn't know I was going to be doing a quick primer, so bear with me. There's 2 different kinds of conflicts of interest. They come into play anytime that you're deliberating or making a decision on something that could impact you, a business for which you're associated, or one of your relatives in a financial capacity. So in this case, if you are going to be voting on giving a grant to an entity that employs you, employs a relative of yours, or is a business for which you're associated receives funding from, then you likely have some sort of conflict of interest. You have a potential conflict of interest if that decision will definitely impact you, a relative or business for which you are associated financially. And in that case, you have an actual conflict of interest. When you have an actual conflict of interest, the recommendation is that you recuse yourself from that vote and any conversations about it. A potential conflict of interest is when there could be, so it's not a certainty like an actual conflict of interest. So if a vote on a certain item could benefit you, your relative, or business for which you're associated financially, then you have a potential conflict of interest. There are some cases out there from the Oregon Government Ethics Commission that says anytime that you're on an advisory or a body that's making a recommendation to the entity that's making a final decision, that all of those are potential conflicts of interest because it's not certain. The city council could overrule your decision and not grant the award that benefits your relative financially. However, there are legal conflicts of interest, and then there are also perceptual conflicts of interest. If, in this case, voting on a grant that benefits you or somebody associated with you financially, you may also make the decision because of the perception of a conflict of interest to recuse yourself from deliberations and votes on that matter. Can I answer any questions about that?
No questions.
Okay.
Grant, do you have any questions?
No, I do not. No
Okay.
question.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the various requests one by one, and we'll all say what our financial recommendation is based on the amount request. And then we'll have them totaled up. And then at the end, we wanted to talk about another potential funding, and that was the city, and Hannah brought that up. And so we'll talk about that, about money for the city after that. But why don't we start by going through the various requests from last week? Before we do that, is there any discussion necessary prior to the funding requests? Okay. Do you want to call them off and we'll...
Okay, let's just confirm, does anyone have any conflicts they want to declare?
So the only thing I'll say is a potential conflict, because in the past, Get Lit has twice in the last 5 years, they have used the Wine Shack as a host site for an event, but that was a change, kind of like a last minute change, that we were a backup location. I don't see it in the plan for them to do it this year, but we could be a last minute location change, a site location change for them. But other than that, it's tenuous.
And you believe you could still be impartial in your decision making?
Absolutely.
All right, anyone else?
I don't really think it falls under any of those categories that actually stipulated, but my husband is on the Chamber of Commerce board as the vice president. So of course, he wouldn't benefit financially from any of these things, but just for transparency, that's the case.
And that's a volunteer position?
Correct.
Thank you. Anybody else? Libby, Andrea? Okay,
I do not.
why don't we,
All right.
think we're good to go.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go down the spreadsheet that I sent out. So
Okay.
Steve first.
Cannon Beach Arts Association Artist Program, 28,000.
So are we we're gonna do
Let's one at a time. Let's,
finish Kennedy Arts
Yep,
Association or
yep.
go down the list?
no, let's do ask by ask. So go across.
So Libby,
I had 28,000.
Hannah,
28,000.
and we do not have grade. Drea.
I had 28,000.
Okay, next up is the chamber. It's the first one is the event and tourism video. Steve,
So they asked for 19.9. I'm giving them 15.5.
Libby,
I'm sorry, I have mine mixed up. Sorry. Oh. This was the video marketing?
correct.
Jeez, I'm sorry. I will get these in order. They asked for 19.9. You said what, Steve?
15.5. What I did is I removed the funding for the two videos that they identified as to be determined.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm gonna say 17.
Hannah,
Fully funded 19.9.
Drea.
19.9.
Okay, next up is the that bike festival. The ask was 16,550.
15,000.
Libby,
So sorry. I'm sorry, I was without a printer, so I didn't have it written out on the thing. I'm going through them. Fat Tire I had at 16.2.
Hannah,
16,550.
Drea.
16,550.
Okay, next up is the Cannon Beach Gallery Group. We'll start with their marketing campaign. The ask is 16,000. Steve,
16,000.
Libby.
You want to put me last? I'm sorry.
Sure, no
Me-
problem.
a second.
Hannah,
16,000.
Drea,
16,000. Puts me last. You're. Yeah, 16,000 is fine.
okay. Next up is the Gallery Group Earth and Ocean. The ask was 20,600. Steve,
20,600.
Hannah,
20,600.
Drea.
20,600.
It goes so much faster with less members. It's kind of
It
crazy.
Yeah.
does, yeah.
20,600 for me.
Okay. And then the Gallery Group Spring Unveiling, the ask is $10,721. Steve,
10,721.
Hannah,
17,721. Or sorry,
Oh, is it?
10.
Okay,
No, I was looking at something else. 10,721.
Drea,
10,721.
and Libby.
10,721.
Okay, next is Stormy Weather. Ask is 7,500. Steve,
7,500.
Hannah,
7,500.
Drea,
7,500.
Libby.
7,500.
Okay, we have the Cannon Beach History Center, the cottage tour. Their ask is 35,000. Steve,
35,000.
Hannah,
35,000.
Drea,
35,000.
Libby.
35,000.
Okay, Coaster Theater, their ask is 40,400. Steve,
33,400.
Hannah,
40,400.
Drea,
40,400.
Libby.
40,400.
Okay, the Tolovana Arts Colony, this one will be the Comedy Fest. The ask is 20,271. Steve,
15,000.
Hannah,
20,271.
Drea,
20,271.
Libby.
I was gonna say 19,000.
Okay, last one is Get Lit. The ask is 40,000. Steve,
40,000.
Hannah,
30,000.
Drea,
40,000.
What was that number? 40?
Sorry, 40, yeah.
Okay.
and Libby.
40,000.
All right, do you want me to just go down and read the averages?
Yeah,
And
please.
we'll make sure that they match with what you have to.
Okay.
Okay, the artist program, I have an average of 28,000. The chamber event and tourism, I have $18,075. Fat bike is $16,075. The gallery group marketing campaign, 16,000. Earth and ocean, 20,600. Spring and veiling, 10,721. Stormy weather, 7,500. Cottage tour, 35,000. Coaster theater, 38,650. The comedy festival, 18,636, and Get Lit, 37,500. This brings a total of $246,757. And we have budgeted $481,250.
Any questions or conversation regarding these? Anybody wanting to change their number?
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Well, I'm kind of going back to the video tour. They asked for 19,900, they got 18. Is that,
Right,
The
19,900 and 18,075.
yeah, I went a little lower on that just because I felt the lack of communication of the videos. And I guess that's kind of where, where I'd like to see that get marketed more. But, and the to be decided ones that we weren't sure about. I don't know. I guess I'm fine with my number on that.
Okay. I'm going to move up fat bike from 15 to, I'm gonna fully fund fat bike, so 16,550.
Okay, and that changes the total to $16,463.
Okay.
In
So the-
comedy, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the ones that are not fully funded are the event and tourism we just talked about. Fat bike is at 99%. And then the other ones that are not fully funded is Coaster Theater, Comedy Festival, and Get Fit.
Yeah, I went with some money off of Coaster Theater just because I looked at the hospitality charge or the hospitality expense in the budget at $5,000. And I just, for one performer, $5,000 for one night for a hospitality charge, I just thought was excessive. And then they had the same thing for the musician. It's one night in town, hospitality charge of $5,000. Just seems like a lot. I don't know if it's possible to come up with one night, $5,000 hospitality charge for one person.
But are we sure it's one night of them staying or it's just one performance?
Well, it is,
Because it could be stipulated that, they have to have a weekend or whatever the case may be.
yeah, even then, for me to have, it's a one night show that Well, the first performer, the fee is $2,500, but then the hospitality fee is $5,000. It seems excessive to me. And so that's where I went in for those two events and cut those down by half. That's how I got to my number. So
That's a heck of a writer that I would think they have if it's $5,000.
yeah, I mean, it's a person, one night show, $2,500 performance fee, $5,000 hospitality fee. That seems excessive to me, and they're funding at 96%. So. I mean, I love the theater, we're sponsors of the theater. That seems like a pretty big number to me. What I will do with the comedy festival, I'll come up to 17.5.
Okay, and that brings their total to $19,261. That's 95% of their ask.
Yeah, I think that gives them a little more money to play with as far as trying to attract a higher end, and try and figure out maybe some newer events to have. Okay, and then Get Lit.
Well, I think I was the only one that underfunded them, and that's, I don't really, I mean, I asked Tracy and I felt like I didn't get a great answer on what the $4,000 to the Arts Associate or the Arts Committee was for. Sounds like it was just a fee that goes to them. And I'm not really sure that's the point of this.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I was confused whether that was just like what they earmark as a donation.
That was my kind of what I gathered from her response.
Yeah,
Right. And that is, you're right. I mean, that's not what
It's not a pass through.
Right.
I mean,
if it was a different nonprofit, but it's their own nonprofit that they're passing through the money to, right?
well, even if it was a different nonprofit, unless it's special circumstances, I still wouldn't necessarily feel like that's a good use of,
The city money,
well, my customers' money.
right?
okay.
Anybody else? Okay, I think we're there.
Okay. Yeah, that's much easier with 7.
Would need a motion to accept the averages as a recommendation to council,
Okay, I make a motion to accept.
but you're chair.
Okay, so I can't. Okay, so somebody else make the motion.
I make a motion to approve the averages, as recommendation to the council.
I second.
Person. Okay. And all to approve?
Aye.
I,
Aye. Anything else we need to do regarding this?
No, so this is gonna go to the work session in July.
Okay.
So we'll want to have a member from TAC be present in case council asks any questions.
What's the date of that? Do you know?
That is gonna be July 11th, I believe. Let me just double check to be on the
Okay.
right side. And
It's a Tuesday.
it would be Tuesday. This meeting on the 11th, I'm gonna be honest, has a couple public hearings at the beginning. And so this, depending on how long those hearings last, will determine when this is heard. So the hearings, because they're announced at 6 o'clock, we'll do those 2 hearings, possibly a couple ordinances, and then we'll get into the remaining items, work session items.
Okay,
Council sometimes has questions. We do have some new councilor members, so there's a good chance there'll be more questions this year than in the past.
okay,
So after that, council will ask any questions, and then they will make a vote on August 1st
okay.
on the numbers.
Yeah, I can be here on the 11th.
Okay. And you could also attend by Zoom if you'd like. You know, that's always.
Okay. Yeah.
Jennifer, what did our final funding number come in at?
So the final number is $247,769. So you use 1% of the budget available.
Okay,
So that's gonna leave in this account as itself, $233,481. Just for the TAP award grants. Then in the tourism, the money from these funds. What's left with that is, I think it was 700,000. Let me grab that number real quick, sorry.
oh yeah, last time I think you said 756,332.
Yes, 756,332 for tourism purpose.
And that, to clarify, that's a TAC account or that's a broader city account that,
It's in the tourism and arts funds section. And so it's money
Okay.
that can only be used for tourism purposes. So that's basically the reserves that have been built up over time. TAC has been trying to have enough money built up so that way you're not reliant on the money coming in that year right away, you know, so they know what they had. We've had a couple really good years, and so we haven't had as many people coming in for requests. This year's a bit lower than past. And so there is a good amount of reserves built up.
So does that
Okay.
mean that the new reserve is gonna be right at $1 million? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, the budgeted reserve for this year is the 706,
Mhm.
you know. And then we'll have the 233 left over in this one. So for the total, you would have those two numbers. So yeah.
So 985, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
And Jen, just so I make sure I'm following, it's called the TAP award fund, and then tourism purpose is really just the reserve fund for TAP.
Correct. That's what I asked. That's what Lori explained. So that's where if you guys wanted to make recommendations for restrooms or other things, we have that money available.
So that's a nice segue. When we were finishing up the meeting last week, and I had brought something up to discuss, and so I thought this is an appropriate venue and appropriate time to kind of have that conversation. So Hannah, I'll just turn it back over to you.
I guess it was just that, you know, it's consistently being brought up that the TAC is dedicating a certain portion of the funds to the school project, which is something that we haven't actually discussed and haven't voted on. So
Right.
that's where I'm at, because I mean, I think there's a lot of confusion in the community about the funding sources, and I think it would be appropriate if we were given the opportunity to discuss that further.
Sure. Anybody have any, Libby, Drea, do you have thoughts on that?
well, I guess I just wanted, oh, go ahead, Drea.
Oh, no, I just cleared my throat.
Oh, okay.
I will say something, but you go first.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anything and that the last discussion that we had about it was in our spring meetings when we were asked, you know, would there be something that we could earmark, but we hadn't discussed an actual number, had we, along the way?
I don't recall.
Where else?
We have not gotten into specifics regarding this.
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't behind on something, so.
Sure.
And I think when Bruce made the request, he brought up 100,000. Is that correct, Bruce?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my
I'll just
thought-
say that,
Go ahead,
I'm
Drea.
sorry. Yeah, sorry. I don't know enough about this probably to vote upon it. I guess I just wonder though, like, and this might be a stupid question, but wouldn't they have to apply like everyone else and show like budget and stuff? Or is that not the case for this project, the school project?
Bruce has a reply on that. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry if that's a stupid question.
No, it's a good question.
It's a great
Very
question. Which I have forgotten already.
The question was if the city would like some money for
Oh, okay.
one of these.
We have to apply.
Yes.
Ran into this when we were putting in power at the bandstand for the concerts that we were doing. And the city is not a 501c3. And so what happened is the city ended up funding that project because we could not apply, even though it was a project that was generated by this board. Does that answer your question? No, I'm sorry. So as far as if it would be a similar situation if the city council does decide to set aside some money to help pay for the debt service. And a lot of that is based on past boards have expressed a great deal of support for this project. And I believe that there's been questions in the past of people that were applying for funds. If the project was completed, would it enhance your project or whatever you're proposing? And there was a very high percentage of yeses. And so what the physical, the actual steps that would be taken, because we can't apply, and because this is something that would be for debt service for 30 years, then what would happen is that the next allocation that comes to TAC would come minus $100,000. So I think it was like 480,000 or something this year.
Mhm.
It would be 380,000. And part of the consideration is that I was here for a conversation, and I think there were some other members on the board at the time that in fact we're getting less applications than what we'd gotten in the past. And there's a surplus of almost $750,000. And so the concept, when discussed with this board and conceptually, and then with the council, is that the new center is going to be substantially tourism related. And this board, and there's all kinds of things that will happen, all kinds of things that can happen that would be promotional along the lines of what this board provides money for. And so that would be an ongoing allocation that would be taken out before the funds come to this group, because we can't apply for those funds. You get somebody ask a
Can I
question.
ask I did not sit on the latest meetings regarding the school, but I guess I know there was an ad hoc committee assembled for discussing management and that kind of thing. Was it decided that we are going to have a physical manager that's going to run the facility?
No, there was not decided. They only had one or two meetings. They meet on Tuesday evening this week. So they're very early on in their discussion.
Okay.
But there is a discussion about whether it should be city run or be under a 501c3. But in both cases, the advocates of each one said, but we do need a manager. So I think that the answer will be yes, ultimately your question, but they have
Okay.
not solved it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
So I don't have a question. I just have a general comment. And my thought is that if the city is going to take an amount that was going to be earmarked for this committee, which is in their purview, I think it would be appropriate for maybe yourself or somebody from city council to come to a committee meeting and just say, here's what our plan is. Our plan is we're going to take $100,000 a year for X number of years for debt servicing and just bring that to the committee so the committee can all hear it and we all have a good understanding of what the city's plan is for the money. And then you don't have to tell, I mean, when I say plan, it's just what you're going to take and how you're going to take it rather than what you're going to do with it.
What we're going to use it.
We don't need to necessarily know specifics on that.
I'd like to know specifics.
Well, I don't know if it goes into a general budget. We may not know, they may not know specific.
Well, yeah, but to like make a appropriate, a good decision, I think we need to have more specifics about this plan rather than we're gonna fund this thing down there and we don't.
I don't think we get a vote on it.
Well, I'd still, I'm a member of this community and I think I'd like to know that before I can even make a solid decision.
You
I
will.
don't understand when you say by decision. You're not getting a vote on it.
Okay, so then what's the point of even talking about it?
Well, we didn't, we're hearing what the city's plan is.
Okay.
Right? So what they're saying is they're pulling that money out before it comes to us and we're gonna decide on other things. That money is going to them.
Okay, so the money's just gonna get pulled without us really having any say in the matter.
Can I just say something here?
Sure.
There's been just a very general discussion at the council level. There are things that would have to happen, steps that would be taken. I'm not even sure if it would require an ordinance change for this to happen. So we're still looking at the financing. And once this all comes together, I believe that's when the council would make a decision that that's what they would want to do. And I believe they would probably want to have a discussion with this board before that happens. But right now, it's totally conceptual.
Okay.
Can I make a couple comments? This
Sure.
actually Fishkill City Attorney's Office. So, this isn't unprecedented. So as Bruce, I think, mentioned back in 2019, the TAC was interested in electrifying or giving electric to the
Right.
city park stage, is it the bandstand that you typically call it?
Yeah.
And so in that situation, Bruce is absolutely right. We brought forward the issue to the city council. Because the city's not a nonprofit, we recommended a number of different ways that those rules could be amended permanently or one-time exception to do the bandstand. Then second, during the pandemic, the city council passed an ordinance to amend the funding to fund the COVID-19 business assistance program. That's another occasion where the city council made a decision regarding use of the tourism and arts funds that was not necessarily how they're usually spent. And then third, when looking at the general guidance that has been adopted by the TAC and approved by the city council, the use of those funding sources includes advertising, publicizing, and distributing information for purposes of attracting and welcoming tourism, marketing special events, and then finally, funding for tourist-related facilities. So funding for a tourist-related facility is already, one of the ways that TAC can spend the money, so long as it is also promoting tourism and the arts. So I think there can be a case to be made that the Cannon Beach Elementary, will be funding tourism and the arts in Cannon Beach. So I just wanted to bring that up. What I heard the original question is, can this committee do that? Funding a tourist-related facility that furthers the arts of Cannon Beach is within the purview. There would have to be a couple amendments that are made just to get around the nonprofit issue, but it's not an insurmountable, issue at all. And then finally, Bruce is right. The city council can amend the ordinance to direct some of those funds, especially in the reserve elsewhere, if they chose to do that. So I hope those comments are helpful, just because some of those questions were swirling in them.
Thank you.
That's great. And I appreciate you all clarifying it too, because for some reason in my brain, I had it that we as a committee were voting that it was a vote and then would go back to the city, but I understand the process better now. So does that make sense?
Yeah, you could do that if this is something that you guys are interested in doing. you could, say, hey, city council, we recommend that, a portion of the tourist and arts fund go towards, this facility. Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what happened with the bandstand, right? That came from the Tourism and Arts Committee saying that this is something that we would like to do.
Well, actually, it was
Am I that
something,
correctly?
well, there was something that they wanted to see was they had the power at the bandstand. But because we couldn't apply, we found the money in the Parks Department budget.
Okay.
Right.
Right,
But
but
it was
the initial offering came from this committee to fund that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And actually, you were on here, Steve, way back when Jim Kingwell was here.
Mhm.
This was something that the board at that time wanted to do to be supportive of this project.
Right.
And we didn't get specific on it. But really, that's where the idea came from.
Sure.
And then also the accumulation of funds that has occurred.
Sure. No, I
Yeah.
understand that.
So in short, the idea can come, it can be hey, city council, we recommend you do this, or the city council can say, this is in the best interest, and there's a process for both.
Okay,
Okay.
that makes good sense. Okay.
So with that being said, do we as as a committee want to make a recommendation for a dollar amount to the city for the school facility?
No.
Okay. Thought on that, Libby or Drea?
I don't know how I would I think it would just kind of be a bullseye dart, really. I think it
Mhm.
has to come from them as far as here's what we see.
Drea, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with Libby. I feel like I mean, without enough information in front of me, myself personally, I don't know. It would
Okay,
be,
I think we're all on the same page and I don't disagree at all. I think it would be good to just have maybe Bruce sit down or somebody else from the city come and sit down and say, hey, here's what we'd like to do. Here's the money that we're asking for. We know that the amount is 100,000, or at least that's what our expectation is. But kind of just give us talking to about it, and then the committee would have an opportunity to vote on that. That would be one of the process, and I would feel comfortable with that. But we do understand that this is the money that is in the reserves now, and the city has the opportunity to, or the ability to use the money as it sees fit towards tourism facilities. So the possibility comes that they don't give a presentation and follow that or go through that process, but they use the different process to take money. But at least I think it would be good if we had a conversation about it.
Oh, and we would like to, and I want to make it clear, at least clarification, that the funds that we're talking about would not come from the reserve. It would be for debt service. And so it would come from the amount that comes in, and I think it was 480 this year,
41.
Yep.
Yeah.
481.
Mhm.
So instead it would be 381 because it would come off the top before the funds come to you. And then that would be used for the debt service.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
any other questions?
Any other questions for Bruce?
I don't.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on this? All right,
Do we want to schedule a meeting to have this discussion?
we would have to do it. I mean, I don't think we need to at this point.
Okay. I just didn't know.
Does anybody feel differently?
How you make this presentation about the funds and how to use them.
Well, it sounds like it's debt service. The 100,000 is debt service, so
Okay.
that's pretty clear. Does anybody feel like they need to have more conversation or want a presentation? I mean, that kind of was it in a nutshell. 100,000 for debt service coming off the top of 481. or the number was 481 to, that will drop that to 381.
Are we sitting pretty consistently at those I mean, I know COVID impacted some of that, but
For funding, is that what your
Yeah.
question is?
yeah,
Yeah, so Lori did 481 this year and last year, and last year we came in much higher than that. So she always tends to go on the lower side to make sure, but we're definitely bringing in more than what we're budgeting, which is why we have that 700,000
Right,
sitting there.
okay. And we've got, I mean, I know we don't have blush and wow and that kind of stuff, but
and Saver. Yeah.
yeah, and Savor, I just want to make sure that if they're coming back again or other things, come to us, that we have some leeway there. To,
So Ashley, if we did have a year with a lot more TAC applicants, and could we pull money from the reserve to pay for that?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
So I mean, nothing in your code, which is the thing that's hard to amend, and then I just closed out of the rules. Let me pull them up again.
Well, I think that's why we started the reserve, right? In
Yeah.
case we had years where there were asks that were larger than the funding.
Right.
And it's quite possible. I mean, if we had the WOW and the Blush and Savor and the Yoga Festival came back, I mean, there's potential for another $100,000 in funding requests right
Mhm.
there. So it would be possible that we would be right at the number. If you took 481 and you pull 100 out, you're at 381. That'd be about where we were. That if we needed to dip into reserves, that's the reason why we created that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not a static number. As Jen said, it was 481 last year and it came in significantly higher. And it does tend to increase year by year.
okay. Great. That's really was my only concern, can we tap
Sure.
into, what trajectory are we on? So,
Yeah. No, I mean, we were pretty close for a couple of years, and that's when a decision was made to start creating a reserve.
great.
Any other comments or points of discussion? I think we're done.
Yeah, real quick, I think, let me pull in the schedule, because I think at this meeting was when we needed to schedule. Out of council and back. Our timeline, so let me pull up the timeline real quick. So we are now at June 26th.
Mhm.
We need to schedule our next meeting, which the review final evaluations for fiscal year 22 and 23. So we will need to schedule that. The final evaluations are due by July 30th. They're technically due within 30 days after the event or by July 30th. So if they haven't had their event, they still need to submit something by July 30th.
Okay.
So we will have those copied and distributed. So we will need to meet in August to have your review of those. So typically the meeting this commission tends to meet on afternoons.
Yeah.
Seems like Mondays have been working pretty well. What are your thoughts for the month of August?
I'm looking at the 21st. I'm out of town the 14th. How does the 21st look or the 28th is a holiday week, so I think we avoid that week as the week leading into Labor Day.
21st works for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, council chambers is open. So do you guys want to do the 21st at 1 p.m.?
Great, does that work for you?
Sure, that works.
Great.
So at that meeting, we'll review the final evaluations and then also discuss any guidelines, goals, suggestions, concerns, just kind of overview of everything that we've done this year. If we want to
Okay.
make any, start talking about anything we want to change in the future.
Okay.
Do you, just because when I came in, it was COVID, everything was a little weird. Do you want me to invite the applicants to the final eval? Because from what I heard through conversations, like over the last year, it sounds like that used to be a thing.
Yeah.
Do we want to get back into that? What's your thoughts?
I think it makes sense to invite them.
Okay,
Thoughts?
I agree.
I feel like we're making them jump through a bunch of hoops.
No, they don't have, they're invited to attend. They don't have to attend.
Okay, as long as it's not.
Yeah, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory.
I will, when we. Okay, I will actually shoot out an email to the applicants just to let them know that that's what our plans are for August 21st at 1 PM.
Right.
And they're welcome to come, but they do not have to.
Yep.
Okay. Right, then I think that's it. You guys did amazing. I actually thought it would last a little bit longer, so good job. I think that 4 people.
4 versus 7.
That's a big difference, yeah.
So,
And-
and
Go ahead, Steve.
to that point, when are we gonna have the 3 vacancies posted?
So the 2 are already posted, and I
Right.
sent Ashley an email letting her know that at the last meeting, we made the recommendation was made to council. So I'll go over the process with her on that
Okay.
to get it scheduled, but I do
Okay.
have the 2 already posted.
Okay.
Rusty put it out on Facebook at one time. We can share it if you guys want to share it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you know anyone, have them apply.
perfect. Will do. Libby, did you have something?
That was my question. Thank you for putting up with my Zooms. I appreciate it.
We're thankful to have Zoom because it works so much easier for people who can't be here. So it's great.
Otherwise, we're on phones.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
thank you.